welcome back to the Curious Kid podcast. Before we delve into this week's topic, I want to suggest an old episode of the podcast. It's the first Sunday in November, and that means that daylight saving time ends in many parts of the world. In other words, there's a pretty good chance that, in the middle of last night, the clocks went back 1 hour. I know that sounds ridiculous, but it's true. Every time daylight saving time starts and ends, I'm always thinking, why in the world do we do this? Can't we just keep things as they are and not bounce back and forth? Well, if you're wondering why we do the whole crazy 1 hour forward and 1 hour back thing every year, we covered the topic in an episode. Go back and listen to episode 23, Curious About Daylight Saving Time, to learn all about it. We recorded that episode over 6 years ago. Also, Olivia and Noah even debated whether or not daylight saving time should exist, so you can listen to the debate yourself, and then you will have everything you would want to know before you decide for yourself whether or not you think daylight saving time is a good idea. Okay, now that we got that out of the way, it's time to tell you that daylight saving time has nothing to do with the actual topic of this week's episode. Even if you know nothing about daylight saving time, there's a really good chance you're very familiar with this week's topic, but that doesn't mean that we can't learn even more about it together.
Mailbag!
Mailbag! Hi, I'm Aaron from New York, and I'm curious about remotes. I'm also curious about atoms. I'm also curious about crayons. Thank you so much for the great podcast. My little sister and I love saying, Mailbag!
We also love saying, Mailbag! Thank you so much for listening to the podcast from the Empire State, New York. Fun fact, my dad is from New York. We are all big fans of New York sports. To be more specific, we love the Mets, Rangers, Knicks, Jets, and Red Bulls. We are very excited to get curious about crayons for Aaron this week.
Crayons are colorful, they're fun, and they're slightly dangerous if you leave them in your pocket and your mom puts your jeans in the dryer. Today, we're taking a long, colorful journey through the world of crayons. Where they came from, how they're made, what they're used for, and why they've been a kid's best friend for over 100 years.
Crayons are one of those things that seem so simple. You pick them up, you color. Done. But when you dig a little deeper, you find out they've got a history filled with experiments, inventions, art, chemistry, and even some seriously weird stories. Like the time Crayola made a crayon called Macaroni and Cheese. I mean, who wouldn't want to draw a giant cheesy noodle?
Or when they retired the color dandelion. I'm still mourning that one. Gone, but not forgotten.
So buckle up, listeners, because today we're going to peel back the wrapper on crayons, roll through the history, break down the science, and maybe even settle the age-old question, what's the best crayon color?
Spoiler, it's definitely not raw umber. I don't care what anyone says. Let's start things off with the question of the week.
The most popular crayon brand in the entire world by far is Crayola. The question of the week is, how many total crayons has Crayola made all time? Hint, Crayola has been around since 1903. That's 122 years ago.
While you're thinking, let's start learning.
Let's start with the basics. A crayon is basically a stick of colored wax. You hold it in your hand, you drag it across paper, and boom, color sticks.
Wax is the secret ingredient here. It's what makes crayons smooth, colorful, and solid instead of being like, say, mushy paint. Most crayons are made of paraffin wax mixed with pigments. Pigments are tiny little powders that give color to everything from crayons to paint to candy.
If you've ever eaten something with food coloring, you've basically eaten pigments. Don't worry, they're safe ones. Please do not eat crayons, though.
Right. Crayons are for coloring, not for snacking. But here's a fun fact. The word crayon comes from the French word craie, meaning chalk. And the on part makes it sound like little chalk. So crayons are little sticks of colorful chalk, except waxy instead of dusty.
Which is good, because no one wants chalk dust all over their living room. So, crayons are wax plus pigment, but they're way more interesting than that simple recipe makes them sound. Let's talk about where they come from.
Humans have been obsessed with coloring things for a long, long time, like tens of thousands of years. The earliest crayon-like tools go back to when cave people used sticks of charcoal or lumps of ochre to draw animals on cave walls.
Which is basically the first fan art. Here, my sketch of the mammoth I saw yesterday. Please like and subscribe.
Later, in Europe during the 1600s, people were making early crayons out of charcoal and oil. But they weren't kid-friendly at all. They were messy, greasy, and smelled bad.
Yuck. Imagine giving a 6-year-old one of those. Here you go, Timmy. Here's a chunk of smelly oil and ash. Try not to ruin the walls.
Fast forward to 1903. That's when cousins Edwin Binney and Harold Smith, two inventors in the United States, founded a company you might have heard of, Crayola.
They wanted to make crayons that were safe, affordable, and fun for kids. Their first box had just 8 colors: black, brown, blue, red, purple, orange, yellow, and green.
Imagine having only 8 colors. No turquoise, no hot pink, no wild names like razzmatazz. Just the basics.
But those basics were revolutionary. Suddenly, kids everywhere could create colorful drawings without making a giant mess. And Crayola didn't stop there. They kept adding new colors, new names, and new sizes.
Now they've made over 400 different colors over the years. Some of the names are so wild that they sounded like flavors of bubblegum. Unmellow yellow? Fuzzy wuzzy brown? Who's in charge of naming these things? And can I apply for the job?
Let's get into the science part, because crayons are more than just melted wax poured into sticks.
Step 1. Melt paraffin wax, which usually starts as a byproduct of petroleum. They heat it until it's liquid.
Step 2. Add pigment powder. Stir it up until the wax is totally colored.
Step 3. Pour the hot liquid wax into molds shaped like little crayon sticks. The molds cool quickly, hardening the wax.
Step 4. Wrap each crayon in that signature paper label so your hands don't get waxy. And also so you can fight with your siblings over who gets the cerulean crayon, because obviously the name is half the fun.
Crazy fact. Crayola's factory in Easton, Pennsylvania makes about 12 million crayons every single day.
Which is enough to give every kid in America a new crayon every single week.
And it smells amazing inside the factory. People say it's like the ultimate new crayon smell.
When people think of what crayons are used for, the obvious thing that comes to mind is coloring. Kids all over the world use crayons to fill in coloring books, draw silly stick figures, or design giant masterpieces on the living room floor.
Don't forget the walls. Many parents know the moment of horror when they walk into the kitchen and see a Picasso-level mural drawn in blue crayon across the cabinets.
And then they spend 3 hours scrubbing while muttering, "Why did we even give them crayons?"
But crayons aren't just for kids. Grown-ups use them too. Some artists actually use crayons in professional art pieces. There are sculptors who carve crayons into shapes, painters who melt them into colorful drips, and illustrators who swear by the unique texture of wax on paper.
In fact, crayons have shown up in museums. There is a famous artist named Herb Williams who creates giant sculptures made entirely out of crayons, like entire statues of animals or people built from thousands of colorful sticks.
In emergencies, crayons can even be used as candles. If the tip of a crayon is lit, the wax burns slowly and it could last up to half an hour.
Of course, crayons are not intended to be used as candles, so using them that way should only happen in a true emergency.
Let's talk experiments. If you've ever been bored with plain old coloring, crayons can turn into some neat science projects.
Oh, like melting them into rainbow drip art? You tape crayons to the top of a canvas, hit them with a hairdryer, and boom! A waterfall of colors streams down the canvas.
Another experiment is testing which crayon colors melt fastest in the sun. You line up crayons outside, wait, and see which puddle forms first. Spoiler, darker colors absorb more heat, so they usually melt first.
That's actually a real science concept called absorption of light. Darker pigments soak up more light energy, which turns into heat, while lighter colors reflect the sunlight.
If you intend to try any of these experiments, please be sure to get the help of a trusty grown-up to be certain you are doing things correctly and, more importantly, safely.
Crayons can be found around the world, but they might be slightly different in different places. In some places, they're made with soy wax instead of paraffin, which makes them eco-friendly.
Some countries call them wax pencils. In Japan, for example, crayons are used a lot in school art projects, and they sometimes come in softer formulas that blend more easily.
In other words, crayons have gone global. No matter where you are, chances are there's a kid somewhere drawing a dragon, a house, or maybe just a giant smiley face with a box of crayons.
When you think about businesses that are selling through the roof, like aloe or skins, sure, you think about a great product, a cool brand, and brilliant marketing. But an often overlooked secret is actually the businesses behind the business, making selling, and for shoppers, buying, simple. For millions of businesses, that business is Shopify. Nobody does selling better than Shopify. With Shop Pay, that boosts conversions up to 50%, meaning way less carts are going abandoned and way more sales happening. So if you're into growing your business, your commerce platform better be ready to sell whatever your customers are scrolling or strolling on the web, in your store, in their feed, and everywhere in between. Businesses that sell more, sell on Shopify. Upgrade your business and get the same checkout Skins uses. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/Westwood1, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/Westwood1 to upgrade your selling today. Shopify.com/Westwood1.
This episode brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever find yourself playing the budgeting game? Shifting a little money here, a little there, and hoping it all works out? Well, with the Name Your Price tool from Progressive, you can get a better budgeter and potentially lower your insurance bill too. You tell Progressive what you want to pay for car insurance, and they'll help find you options within your budget. Try it today at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law. Not available in all states.
Speaking of giant smiley faces, here comes Noah with a big smile on his face, and he is ready to drop some serious facts. Here, with 5 unbelievable facts you need to know about crayons, is Noah. Take it away, Noah! Fact number 1. The world's largest crayon was made by Crayola in 2003 for their 100th anniversary. It was 15 feet long, 16 inches wide, and weighed 1,500 pounds. Fact number 2. Crayola released the world's largest box of crayons in 1993. It had 200 different colors. Why settle for one shade of green when you can choose between sea green, forest green, shamrock, fern, and asparagus? Fact number 3. There is an actual name for the crayon stubs that are left over when you use the crayon too much. The proper name for them is leftolas. Fact number 4. By the time the average kid is 10 years old, they've already worn down an average of 720 crayons. Fact number 5. Only 2 Crayola colors have ever had name changes: Back in 1958, the color Prussian blue was changed to midnight blue. Just 4 years later, the Crayola color Flesh was changed to peach.
Awesome job, Noah! It's time to answer the question of the week. Have you been thinking about the total number of crayons that Crayola has made in their 122 years? Well, I'd be impressed if your guess is within 20 billion of the correct answer. Olivia, how many crayons have they made?
Crayola has produced a total of over 232 billion crayons all time. That would be enough crayons to give every single person living in the world today 29 crayons. How crazy is that?
Well, that's a wrap for this week's episode.
Thanks so much for listening to this week's podcast number 330 on crayons.
Great job, Olivia, and great job, Aaron, for the colorful episode topic suggestion. Join us next week when we will get curious about jury duty for listeners in California. As always, thank you so much for listening and getting curious with us.